Please be seated. John chapter 15 is a very important chapter in the scripture. We have the I am sayings of Jesus. There are 7 of them. I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. I am the gate of the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I am resurrection and life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And the last one is, I am the true vine. That was our gospel lesson for today. When I was reading this passage, gospel passage for today, my thoughts went back to the days I used to go to Rutgers University to do Bible studies there. Brilliant students, and they had a lot of questions to ask about how to live their lives, what they want to do, and also their aspirations and their dreams. And one of the questions I asked them was, what do you want to become after your university education? They all had different ideas. If you have to summarize what they said to me, would be something like this. They want to graduate, and of course, they want to get a good job, and they want to climb the corporate ladder and go to the top, and then marry a girl of their dreams, and of course, settle down somewhere close to Wall Street. Then, of course, afterwards, they'll move to the suburb, raise children, send them to good schools. And after everything is over, with life, they will have a lot of security, and the children will grow up in nice schools, and they will get married, they'll move away, and ultimately, we'll go to Florida. Wonderful plan. I've heard this over and over again from many different young people, bright young people. So I could not help asking them a few questions. I asked them, if you are climbing this ladder, you are having a lot of success, and one day you go to the doctor. And doctor says, of course, there's something I see in the stock. I don't know what it is. Let's take a biopsy. And after the biopsy, you go to the doctor to find the results. And then the doctor says the 3 most dreaded words in the English language. You have cancer. What do you do then? How would you react to something like this? And then you send your children to wonderful schools, and your son comes back and says, Dad, I'm hooked on drugs. What would you do? Where can you go to find peace? Where can you go to find solace and comfort? Do you have anything that you can fall back on? How do we face the challenges of life? What do we do when you have to meet the giants in our journey of life, as David did once? Then I looked at the scriptures to find out. Particularly the saying of Jesus, I am the true vine and you are the branches. There is this kind of an intimate relationship that Jesus is offering us, saying that I'm the vine, come to me. You are connected with me. And he is offering a relationship to us, a very intimate relationship, a nourishing relationship, where you are nurtured, nourished, and made strong. That gave me a lot of comfort. Then I looked at Jesus' life. You remember the temptations in the wilderness? Whenever he was tempted, or whenever he had a difficult time in his life, he went back to his scripture. He was able to overcome his temptation with the devil in the wilderness because he was able to use the scripture. It is written, he says. Even when he faced the agony of death, he used the scripture. He used 2 verses from the Psalms from the cross. He said, my God, why have you forsaken me? Psalm 22:1. Then the last words he said from the cross was from Psalm 31:5. In your hands I commend my spirit. He resorted to his scripture in the time of need. And you also read in the Gospels, whenever he had to make an important decision, he went away somewhere. He spent time with his Father. He spent the whole night at the mountainside before he chose his disciples. So these were the resources that Jesus used when he confronted problems, when he had to face some challenges in life. This offers us hope. That ancient book that we call the Bible has something to say to us. The Bible was written over the period of roughly 2,000 years by 40 different authors from 3 continents who wrote in 3 different languages. These facts alone make the Bible one of a kind. But there are more amazing things about the scripture. Especially when we are going through difficult times, there are certain verses that will speak to us predominantly. And those verses keep us going. I shared this with you some time ago. I have a Roman Catholic nun who is my student in the seminary. And she was going through a very life-threatening surgery. She was very apprehensive. She asked me to pray 24 hours for her because she was scared. And after a month or so, she came back to the class. And this was her testimony. She said, Father David, when I was going through that difficult time in my life, the only one verse of the Bible sustained me. And that was, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. How can such scriptures speak to us? This is something that Jesus is inviting us to do. First of all, Jesus is inviting us to a wonderful, deep relationship with him. I am the vine, you are the branches. We are interconnected. We have a relationship. You come to me, I will give you the nourishment that you need for your day-to-day life. Then he is inviting us, learn from me. When I was in trouble, my only way out of it was the scripture. I go to my Father for relationship and I use scripture for my sustenance. So he is inviting the whole church to come and study the scripture. I was in Toronto last weekend to do a wedding. I met a lot of young people in that church. They were telling me they are leaving the Anglican Church in Canada and they are going to different non-denominational churches. I said, why? One reason they told me was there is a good Bible study there. As Bishop Spong, who was my bishop, used to tell me, we Episcopalians are biblically illiterate. We have been called to study Scripture. This is a time we cannot do business as usual. We need to delve deep into the marvelous Scriptures that has been given to us to find out a reason for our living and also overcome the challenges of our lives. This is a gift God has given us. God is calling us today, through Christ, to have a deep relationship with Him and also to study the Word that He has given us. That is the reason why the Scripture is called the living Word of God. May God help us as we continue to search for meaning and purpose in life and deal with many, many challenges of our lives. And may the Scripture help us. May our relationship with God help us to see through the problems and the giants we face in this world. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.